Welcome to the 10th episode of Generation Gap Book Reviews. I'm Kristi the mom.
And I'm Lena the daughter.
Today we're going to be reviewing two different books. Later in the podcast, I will be reviewing Disney After Dark by Ridley Pearson.
I am starting with One Summer on Mackinac by Alana Robin, which is a self-published book, fairly certain.
And how did you come across this book?
I don't know for sure. I think I was kind of just like looking up random books on maybe Amazon or something because I was just curious. And I found something about Mackinac, and I went to Mackinac Island when I was 12? 13? No, wait. Yeah, 13. Because there's a rendezvous up there, a reenactment for my grandpa, and we had a day off. So we went to Mackinac Island. So I was like, I wonder what a book about that takes place in Mackinac Island would be like.
So what is this book about?
So the main character, Ariella, she is basically trying to save up for college.
Ariella?
Yeah, Ariella.
It's just a bunch of letters put together. Ariella.
But she's saving up for college, and so she gets a summer job on Mackinac Island at a fudge shop.
Well, of course, because that's what everybody knows about Mackinac Island is that there's lots of fudge shops. You're not sure that it's a fudge shop?
I'm just making sure, because I wanted to, I didn't know.
You wanted to be accurate.
I'm pretty sure she gets two jobs, but the fudge shop was the main one. And so basically, horse carriages, all the shebang there in Mackinac Island, because there's no cars and there's bikes and horse carriages. I'm rambling.
The synopsis is literally just that she gets a job on the island and that's it.
She says it's going perfectly, but then she meets this guy George, and then
now it's not perfect anymore.
Yeah, she falls into a situationship, and then
what?
You've never heard of a situationship? It's a really dumb thing. It's between friends and a relationship. It's basically you're doing relationship things but without a title. I feel like. So
somebody's afraid to commit.
A label. Yeah. I don't get how that stuff works. It's
probably because it doesn't really work.
Exactly. We talked about this in church once. And basically kind of her whole list, her plan kind of just falls apart.
So why isn't it just a friendship?
Because they like each other, but
okay.
They don't want to have
friends can
labels.
Like each other.
So something that just doesn't work very much, but I think a lot of teens nowadays in public schools get into this stuff, and I just I don't understand it because.
Well, at least I'm not the only one. I thought that was part of the generation gap.
Oh, I mean, you never really heard of it.
I don't think I've ever heard of a situationship. I think that sounds like something people just want to say because they want to make things complicated.
Yeah.
That's
pretty much the synopsis, yeah.
Because now I get the impression that you didn't necessarily enjoy it all that much.
I rated it 3.5 stars. So yeah.
The look on your face says less than that, but okay, keep going.
Well,
go ahead. Let's start with how we normally start. What did you like about it?
I really enjoyed the way that she set up Mackinac and just explain things that happen and the different people that the main character Ariella met.
Element OP.
Element OP. Just the different kind of characters that she met, and they were all intriguing in different ways. It was interesting.
Okay.
I liked some of the characters. Others not so much.
Did you like Element OP?
Ariella, I mean, yeah, she kind of she seemed a little over the top. She just kind of maybe people pleaser. I guess that kind of thing bothers me sometimes. She just wanted to go along with things, if that makes sense. But she was also a bit independent in her own way. It was interesting.
Anything else you want to say about what you liked before we talk about what you didn't like? You have 3.5 stars of liking of what you liked and 2.5 of what you didn't. So.
I mean, their relationship wasn't too bad. They have a pretty good relationship besides it being a situationship. I feel like there's some miscommunication, but I mean, I guess it was kind of interesting. I finished the book, so that kind of said something.
What would it take for you to not finish a book?
If I'm halfway through and there's nothing interesting me about it.
Have you ever not finished a
book?
No. Well, how do you know you would ever get to that point?
That's what I always think about. If I ever feel the need to DNF a book, it's probably gonna be because I could get halfway through and I'm like, I just don't wanna.
Did you consider doing that with this book?
No,
Because the fact
not
that you're like, I
really.
finished it, so that says something, makes me
Well,
think that you wondered.
no, I didn't really think about
Roll
it.
your eyes at me.
I didn't roll my eyes. I was just looking.
Oh.
That's just how I move my eyes around.
Anything else you want to say?
About what I liked about it? Probably not. I think
we-
that was. I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought we had moved on to
No,
what
we
you did.
didn't. Oh, so nothing too bad about Taylor Swift, but the main character.
Who's bringing Taylor Swift into this?
Ariella was like obsessed, and like I read it on my Kindle, so like, and it always shows what like popular highlights, and there was like she had this whole paragraph where she was talking to George about Taylor Swift, and a lot of people highlighted it, and I was just like, yeah, I get that you guys like Taylor Swift, but like I don't really listen to Taylor Swift that much, so like
It wasn't anything like important about Taylor Swift or anything that it was important to the story that everybody highlighted, or was it just the fact that she's mentioned?
It wasn't important to the story at all. I mean, I guess she was explaining why she liked her music, and I guess that.
And everybody thought, "Oh, I feel so validated."
Yeah, that's probably what they did think.
Oh man.
But like, I don't like hate Taylor Swift or anything, but like, she was like obsessed, so I was just like, oh, okay. There was also a lot of alcohol mentioned, like.
I believe I warned you about that.
I know. I mean, I knew that there would be, but like.
Not that I've read the book. Just
I mean,
to clarify,
yeah,
I didn't read the book, but I looked at reviews before Lena read it, and at least one person mentioned a lot of drinking. And
yeah.
How old is this woman?
I think she was about 18 or 17. Probably more 18.
Well,
but she was definitely under drinking age.
If she has graduated from high school and she's saving up for college, she's at least 18, probably, most likely, and probably not 21. So yeah, not only is there a lot of drinking, there's a lot of underage drinking.
Underage drinking, yeah. And she didn't drink as much as she was just around drinking more than she drank. But I remember there was one scene where she just drank a lot because of something that happened, and I was like, well, this is fun. I also remember another thing about it. Just it kind of went into. I thought it was gonna go into more physical stuff with George and Ariella. But it faded to black before it got to anything like, whoa. Like I was really like looking at my phone like, I don't know what's about to happen. But it was more than I expected, I guess.
Were you about to be like, Mom, read the next few paragraphs and tell me if it's okay to read or not?
And then the chapter ended, so I was like, it wasn't too bad. But so, the ending. I was just like, I don't get this ending. I mean, I guess maybe this is how summer jobs work. This is what happens in summer jobs. But I was just like,
I mean, that they end. It
just doesn't feel right. Not. It doesn't feel wrong either, but it just feels like unfinished.
Like the summer job ended because summer was over?
Yeah, but like, yeah.
I mean, obviously, maybe you're trying not to spoil anything, but you said maybe this is just how summer jobs are. Well, like
things like during, like when you have to go away somewhere far away for summer jobs, and then you meet people you don't like know, but you don't live like anywhere near them.
Kind of like going to camp or something?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. Just longer.
Right. So you're saying that just was it like anticlimactic or abrupt or?
There wasn't really much to it. I feel like I was just like, well, I was expecting more, but
so you didn't really feel fulfilled.
Yeah, I was just like, well, that was it.
And you already mentioned your rating that you gave it 3.5 stars.
3.5.
And who would you recommend it for? Would you recommend it for anybody? I mean, 3.5 stars, probably at least some recommendation.
Maybe a little. I feel like maybe I was probably my age and older. I feel like I might have been a little too young, but at least since it didn't go into too many details, it wasn't too bad. It's just you probably like for parents checking ratings and stuff first, like you did, and then I guess people who like this kind of book, these kind of books, I guess, like
summer romances.
Yeah, summer romances. Plus, the main reason I read this book and the main reason I rate it 3, like over 3, because of the whole thing with Mackinac, and I love Mackinac Island, even though I've only been there once. So like I feel like people who, either like want to travel or have traveled there,
or other places like it, because I think there are
yeah.
I believe there are other islands that can be similar in that
Mm-hmm.
no, you're not allowed to have cars. Everybody generally gets around by bike or their horse-drawn carriages. Lots of touristy,
old-fashioned tourist kind of stuff.
So
and sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say I know a few of the reviews that I read actually basically that or people who didn't really like it, what they said about it was that it could have been any island.
Yeah.
Any island of the same type. So, but that doesn't make it worse. Doesn't make it bad for you. It just apparently they didn't feel like it was all that special. But so people who enjoy those kind of places.
Yeah. Because I read somewhere that the author Alana, she like grew up on Mackinac Island, so she had more like experience writing about it. I also liked that there was a map. I just kind of remembered there was a map of the island at the beginning of the book, which I thought was neat. Because you can kind of look back at it and be like, hey, what are we talking about? Because there were places.
So people who have never been to a place like this and don't have much interest in it may not actually enjoy it that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it would be fairly niche.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's it. Now, Mom, and your book?
All right. Well, the book I'm reviewing, Disney After Dark, is the first book in a series of, I think, 7?
I think so.
The first... I had never heard of it before, but the first 3, I think, your dad got at a thrift store.
Mm-hmm. As per usual.
A lot of, especially young adult or middle grade books that I have read, or because he found them somewhere and thought they looked interesting and thought I'd like them. And I had a feeling early on that it was probably going to be more of more interest to people who have been to Disney a lot, people that maybe who live down around the area or who just have visited there a lot, maybe even people who've seen a lot of Disney movies. None of this applies to me. I've been to Disney World once, and it was a long time ago. But, I'm always willing to give things a try, and especially when your dad brings them home for me, and but then we kept seeing these books at different thrift stores, and finally decided to go ahead and I think we found all but one. I'm missing number 5, but ended up picking up a couple more at some thrift stores. And so now I own almost the entire series. And so now there's a lot of pressure, I feel like it, which makes things a little difficult. But so the first book.
What's the series called, though?
Oh, the series is called Kingdom Keepers.
Kingdom Keepers make a sound. The King of Kings, he has been crowned.
Yeah, and don't think I don't get that song in my head every time I'm reading one of these books.
It's like a few years back VBS song for people who don't know.
The very first VBS that we were in charge of.
Oh yeah, that's some more lore. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
And okay, so the first book, as far as I can tell, was written more as a standalone. And I say that because I've read the second book now, and the second book's dedication is basically something along the lines of, this is to everyone, all of the fans who requested through email for there to be another book. And also the term Kingdom Keepers does not appear in the entire first book. So I was a little confused about that. And then it comes up in the second book. But this is about the first book. So this is the first book is it's sci-fi or fantasy. I really don't know. I guess it's sort of both, because essentially what's going on is, due to some fictional like holographic technology, 5 kids have been selected to be used as what they call holographic hosts in the Magic Kingdom, which is one of the parks at Disney World. So they posed as models to be like they were photographed and stuff with some kind of advanced technology, and turned into holographs that these holographs will walk around the park and to interact with kids and guide them or whatever. But then they start waking up at night as their holographic selves in the park. So this technology that turned them into holograph was, if I remember right, it was intentionally made to allow them to wake up in the park, because over the years some of the animatronics and statues, characters in the park have started to like come to life and are threatening the park. They're called the Overtakers, and basically all of the anything villainous or bad or whatever, like the Pirates of the Caribbean and other things.
Maleficent?
Maleficent is actually the main bad guy in the series.
You say
so
Maleficent?
Far. Yeah.
Wait, is it Maleficent or is it Maleficent?
I've always heard Maleficent, I think. What did you say?
Maleficent?
Maleficent? It's Male, Maleficent. I don't know. That's how I pronounce it.
I don't know.
So there's a guy, one of the Imagineers at Disney World, who was instrumental in this technology being created so that these kids can help fight back against the Overtakers. Because if they grow any stronger, they might actually be able to threaten the world outside of the park. And only these 5 hosts can stop them. So that's the story. The premise of the book really was interesting to me. The idea of characters in a Disney park coming to life. It's kind of like, Night at the Museum.
Oh, yeah.
And threatening the park.
Sorry.
And then potentially threatening the rest of the world was really interesting. Now, I was, like I said this before, but I was fairly certain that a lot of the magic of this book would probably be in the idea that kids are going to be roaming Disney parks, or at least Magical Kingdom, after hours. It is called Disney After Dark, after all. And even though I'm not a big Disney buff and I've only been to the parks once, I still thought that I could see the fun in that. And there was some fun. And I think that the overall story was decent. I could see the magic in it, and I think maybe what I did like about it was seeing what it could have been, which is, I know, a little strange to say because that means it really wasn't that. I think I enjoyed the idea of it enough that it kept me from disliking it, despite all of the things I didn't like about it, which I'm going to go ahead and talk about now, because I don't feel like I have a whole lot to say about what I liked about it, even though I didn't hate it. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, it really could have been better. It fell short in execution. The dialogue was stilted a lot. The kids would say things that just, I've said this so many times. I read so many books where I just wish, and maybe they do this, but I kind of assume they don't. I wish more authors would read their book out loud before they published it. Because if you read some of your dialogue out loud, you might realize no one talks like that. But it's not as noticeable when you're just reading in your head. Except for apparently to me, because I'm reading it in my head and it still sounds ridiculous.
Well, you're very... It sounds rude to say you're picky, but you are.
I am picky.
We have talked about this.
Even outside of the dialogue, there's just parts in the prose that is clunky and doesn't even always make sense. There are times when I'm reading a paragraph and I'm just like, I literally don't even know what you're trying to say. I know what each of these words means, but they do not make sense together. I've read several books like that, and I never understand how I'm the only one that seems to notice these things. How an editor didn't catch this stuff. And we're not talking about self-published books here. We're talking about traditionally published books, and I'm just like, well, who read this? I don't understand.
A person.
I couldn't give you any details because it's been long enough now. It's not been a long time, but it's been long enough that I don't remember specific details. But I remember there was a point or two where there were continuity issues even within a single page. Like something would happen, and then like 3 paragraphs later, the author would forget what happened, and things would move on incorrectly. And the 5 kids, the hosts, they are not very well developed.
I was gonna say, did their names keep changing? No, that would be terrible.
Actually, okay, so they don't know each other at the beginning, and actually that is kind of one of the things I like. It's nice to remember. Something I did like about it was that as everything was happening, and the main character's name is Finn. He's the main one. And he's the one who's, I think, first approached by this Imagineer named Wayne, who is the one who was, like I said before, instrumental in getting this technology put together so that they could fight the Overtakers. And when he realizes that they're the only ones who can fight the Overtakers, he has to seek out the other hosts, and then they have to work together. And you asked if their names kept changing, and in a way they did, but not in a continuity issue way, but in a way that made it really hard for me to keep track of who was who, because at some point in this book they actually all communicate through a chat room type thing. Something I think that's made up for the book, but since I don't know Disney, I could be wrong. But their chat room names are
really different.
like internet handles.
Oh yeah.
And some of them are kind of similar to their names, but like there's like 3 girls and 2 or 3 girls and 3 guys, 2 girls. The 2 girls, I don't know. I had a hard time keeping track of who they were to start with, and then it was even harder when they were in there. And they were, for the most part, they were interchangeable. They didn't really have a lot of their own distinct personalities, and so when they would talk, whether in the chat room or in real life, any one of them could have pretty much been saying anything.
Oh.
So that there's any book with this many sort of major, like not main, I think Finn is still the main character, but this many major characters working together to defeat, the bad guy or whatever, has a heavier burden to make sure that their different characters are distinct enough. And so, yeah, this guy just did not do a very good job of developing his characters and making them distinct enough. The main character was the only one I could really tell apart, and even then when they were all talking and he was one of the ones talking, I couldn't always tell which one was him. Obviously they would have dialogue tags, but I'm not, it's sometimes it's difficult to keep track of it all. Anyway, so I might have mentioned this already, but I gave the book 3 stars, and I'm holding out hope that it'll get better. I actually just recently read the second book, and I'm pretty sure I gave it 3 stars also, but I don't think this is a series that I'm going to revisit in the podcast in the future, and I also don't recommend it enough to you to. I don't know if you've ever had a desire to read it based on what I've talked about it or seen it.
Yeah, I haven't really heard anything about it. I didn't know.
We have now.
I have now.
So now, do you have any desire to read it?
Not really.
As far as recommendations, I have a feeling that people who are really into Disney, it will strongly affect that will strongly affect whether they like the book or not. However, whether it'll make you like the book more or less, I couldn't tell you, because I read different reviews, and some people who knew a lot about Disney, it made them like it more, and some people, I think it made them hate it.
Oh, wow. Do you think you'll ever end up DNFing the series?
I don't know. I mean, I have all but one. Mm-hmm. I hate the idea of not finishing a series that I own so much of. It would have to get pretty bad. I mean, the reviews, if you look on Goodreads, which is, where I usually look for ratings, the rating, the overall rating for each book gets a little higher as you go through the series, but that doesn't necessarily mean it gets better. Sometimes that just means the people who already liked the first ones are the ones that hang in there to keep reading it, and so the overall rating is skewed.
Oh yeah.
So, we'll see. I mean, the second one I didn't like any more than the first one, but I didn't like it any less. So I'm going to keep going for now, but we'll see if I keep going any more after that. However, as far as this podcast goes, they may not hear anything about it ever again.
I've only DNF'd something like once, but it wasn't
and you don't mean a book, you mean a series.
Yeah, no offense to them.
No.
Well, actually, you'll hear it in the future, because we'll do it soonish. We'll do an episode.
Well, and it's interesting because you and I consider would consider DNFing a series differently. I personally think that I don't really call it DNFing a series unless I've read more than one of the book. If I read the first book in a series and I don't like it enough to keep going, I don't consider that DNFing the series. I just consider that not getting into the series. Oh. You consider DNFing it. You call it DNFing it if you have only read one book and don't continue it, right?
Yep.
Well, that is it for these 2 books.
Join us next time when we are going to be reviewing Nightfall by Jake Halpern and Peter Kujalinski. You look at it here.
Kujawinski? I'm pretty sure you were putting an L sound in there where there's no
I don't
sound.
know. I was just trying to pronounce it. Anyway.
I ain't saying I'm pronouncing it right either, but Kujawinski is what it looks like to me.
Hide. Sorry.
Okay. Until next time, I'm Kristi.
And I'm Lena.
And this is Generation Gap Book Reviews.